Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Good morning, welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Mikey, Stafford and Rory O'Neill here as always, and we've been joined by Lee Keegan. How are you getting on, Lee?
Good now, all good. How are you, lads?
Good, thank you. Good. We just 2 matches to look back on, but thankfully one of them was a humdinger. The Ulster quarter final between Tyrone and Monaghan did not disappoint. That's 217 to 118. Lee, it's fair to say that is not a stereotypical Ulster quarter final scoreline.
No, I read last night Ulster seems to be the one that ignites championship or saves it. On the other hand, it was a cracker of a game. You have to say fair play to 2 teams. I think we give out a bit standard of football and the robotic status of it and the lateral and listen, there was bits of that yesterday, but I think the consensus from yesterday, we had 2 teams that just went out with an attack-minded focus. I think Ed McGinley made a great point last night that probably due to the structure of the championship, it wasn't the end of the world. I think it was just about getting one up on each other. But in terms of the contest, it was a cracking game. 2 teams went at it. You know, Darragh Canavan's flashy, sexy football in the first half versus Manzi's just star-studded right foot that never seems to miss. And it just had a bit of everything. The dramatic finale kind of summed up the contest in general. So listen, I think we're very easy to look at the negative side of football, but yesterday was a day that it just pumped a bit of love back in the veins and got us on the edge of our seat and thoroughly enjoyable game of football.
Yeah, Rory, we long debate the logic and the sense in the fisted point here, etc. And I think anyone who'd watched him do exactly the same thing against Mayo 3 weeks ago was sure Ryan O'Toole was going to fist that ball over the bar. One of the best goalkeepers in the country was on his near post. He had a defender beside him. There really didn't seem to be anywhere for that ball to go. And for a guy on his championship debut to say, to hell with extra time, I'm going to win it. To have the balls to do it for a start is amazing, but it's all well and good. I could have the balls to do it, but it wouldn't mean I'd be able to actually make it happen. It was a sensational goal. The time made it more sensational, obviously, the circumstances, but it was also
and the
a
celebration.
very, very good finish.
The celebration was class as well. No, everything about it. I think I was like a big Liverpool supporter, as you know. Luis Suarez was very famous, obviously very famous striker for Liverpool, and he had this fierce knack of taking the shot really early to try and unsettle a goalkeeper. And I think that actually played a key role because he was quite a good distance out, but he pulled the trigger so quickly. I don't think he gave Morgan any time to start to set himself, to adjust his feet, to get his positioning right, and the ball just flew under his legs. But I mean, it was just the exuberance of youth. Paul Flynn, I think, made the point yesterday on the TV about that innocence and taking the shot on maybe played a significant role.
No one on his Dubs team would do that. Dermot Connolly might be allowed to do that.
But a grizzled old veteran is probably taking the safer option. It is a young kid basically playing in his championship debut who takes it on, and it's right over stuff. It's incredible. And that's the other thing that was noticeable. I mean, Monaghan had quite a few 30-somethings playing between Darren Hughes, Ryan Wiley, Conor McManus, as we mentioned. I think Beggan is probably into his mid-30s, but they're regenerating. I mean, Rory Gallagher, Micheál Bannigan, Ryan O'Toole himself, Shane Carey came on. I thought he did quite well. Like, they're regenerating a fairly new team that are coming in, that are playing the Monaghan way, which is they just never give up. And I thought the wind was probably a bigger factor than we might have realised. They did look a little bit out of sorts in that first half. They were all over the shop on their own kick out in that first half, which is why I thought Beggan was outstanding. I mean, absolutely incredible. But it was like a light switch. I mean, some of the scores they got in the second half, Bannigan, as I mentioned, Conor McCarthy, Shane Carey. And what about the ball from Beggan to Rory Gallagher? I mean, I had just written down, Lee, fly goalkeepers, what's the point? And next thing, Beggan then plays the slide rule ball to carve open the Tyrone defence. I mean, it was just, listen, it was a brilliant game of football, had absolutely everything. I do think it's probably a fair point that Enda makes, in that it does offer this time of the year the opportunity for teams to maybe have a bit more of a cut off things, and because there's so many safety nets. I mean, the current format is like the Nations League. There's more ways there's more ways to get knocked in or knocked out of it than you could shake a stick at. So I think that maybe lent itself to a degree to the sort of open nature that we got, where both teams just threw off the shackles and had a real go at each other, and it was just incredible to watch. 1 point though, Mikey, Tyrone have one championship win since they won the All-Ireland in 21.
Yeah.
And that was obviously against the Notice. And that was it was a ropey enough victory, actually, against Fermanagh. I think it was something like 2-17, 2-11.
That's right, yeah.
So while you might say, yeah, they can park it, they can move on, I think they will. That's going to stick in their craw, and they have a lot of time to stew on it, and that's the problem for them.
Yeah, Lee, it's another point Enda made. Enda's like Banco's ghost here. We're talking about it more than he would be if he was here. On the podcast last week, he was kind of talking a little bit about Roscommon as, it was a great win against Mayo. We're not that shocked they beat Mayo. But the next step for a team like Roscommon is to have an impact on the national stage. Like Roscommon are well able to upset the apple cart in Connacht, but they haven't really made a breakthrough in the All-Ireland series yet. And Monaghan aren't really a dissimilar team. There's been an All-Ireland semi-final and stuff, but like they're for the kind of the reputation they have in Ulster, it hasn't quite transferred to the All-Ireland series. I wonder, it's very early to say this, and it's like a sample of 2, but are we getting to the point now where that's what the provincials are going to become, the preserve of like these kind of second tier counties who maybe aren't going to win All-Ireland, but a provincial might be something they can get? And maybe, as Rory's point is good about Tyrone now, they could use a championship win, but Tyrone are even still probably would be counted as a more genuine All-Ireland contender than Tyrone. And you could say Mayo, the same with Mayo and Roscommon, that would be disputed, but they're going off to kind of fine tune and kick their heels a little bit. And it's not a bad thing, and I'm wondering, could this almost reinforce the old order to an extent, this new system?
I think what it tells us is that the likes of Monaghan and Roscommon in particular, they thrive in provincial systems, and they still have a huge pride within that. And I think the way, and you made a good point, Roscommon don't fear Mayo or Galway ever in Connacht. Now, I can't say nationally how they when they come across us, we don't play them too often outside of Connacht, but I know within the province itself that they are very proud of their provincial status. And I wouldn't always say cause upsets, but they do cause a stir, because they're always kind of underdogs when their backs against the wall, particularly against Mayo Galway. I didn't see it as a massive upset or shock last day. We all tipped Mayo based on league form, and the way they're playing football. They just look flat, got caught by a better Roscommon team. And I think the same with Monaghan is that Monaghan just seemed to get to this stage where it's life or death. And when their backs are against the wall, and again, I'm talking provincial as well, came away from league and another relegation madness day. Like, I don't know how to do it, but it's like they come into provincial, revise, and ready to rock again. And the thing I liked about Monaghan yesterday, particularly, Mike, is that, right, I was looking at Monaghan in the first half, and it kind of summed up their league form to a degree. Lethargic, flat, kind of out of sorts in how they're going about their attack, and even the intensity of their tackle. They're a very proud team in terms of pressing the team and getting big turnovers. But I have to give Vinny Corey massive credit. I didn't see that second half coming based on that first half performance. Like, it was either go for broke or kind of stay in the game for long enough and look respectable, and Tyrone pull away maybe 5 or 6 points. But Vinny Corey threw off the shackles, made a couple of change off time, and I think you're right as well, Rory. I think Rory Beggan played an absolute blinder. I don't think it's probably touted enough how good he was. Yeah, listen, he got pushing his kickouts in the first half, and he had a couple of turnovers. But that ball in for the goal for Gallagher to have was beautiful. But he had another 40-yard kick pass on the right-hand side yesterday, 40 yards into the full forward line. I mean, when you have a guy, like we talk about Armagh and their system and how they play with the keeper, but like, Man have been doing this a lot longer, probably not to the same degree, but it just shows how comfortable in the system that Rory Beggan is, and how he's able to adapt to the game and play in outfield. So I think he created havoc yesterday in terms of how we set up attacks.
And it's very old fashioned to say it, but he also made a couple of very good saves.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there was a key one in the second half where Myler popped the ball into McNamee.
Yeah.
Now listen, it was a tight angle, but you're talking about your nuts and bolts of being a keeper.
He still made himself big, and
exactly, yeah. Like, so, I mean, is that the way the game has gone? Is that your keeper nearly is your most important player these days? You know,
well, that's a good question. Yeah, it's
a
good question. Like, I mean, how important is your goalkeeper? How important is the goalkeeper in the way these guys play it in the modern game, Lee? It's crazy. Yeah.
Like, I think the thing with Rafferty is that he is an out-and-out forward in goal. And I think there's a great narrative and story around that. But then you go to the out-and-out keepers like Niall Morgan and Beggan, who are naturally very good shot stoppers, good kickers. But then they've just revolutionized their game in terms of how they're able to play at field. So they're nearly like a quarterback now these days with how they're playing. More so probably Beggan, the way he set up yesterday. And the fact that Monaghan went man-on-man for majority of the second half. And it just showed that there was a lot of chinks in Tyrone's defensive structure yesterday, and they couldn't deal with Beggan when he was out around the middle. And even when he doesn't get the ball, which I find fascinating, is that he actually creates pockets of space because they're so worried about what Beggan's going to do with the ball that they actually get attracted to him. So I think it's just the way the game has gone, the way the keeper has gone. For me, I love the old-fashioned keeper. I like a shot stopper, a kicker of the ball, but from a neutral perspective, it's brilliant to watch. But just go back to Mikey's point, I think that's why the likes of Omagh and Roscommon, they just love provincial status, they love provincial victories. And I think, listen, the grand scheme of things, Tyrone, Mayo in particular, we're talking about, they won't worry. They have a bit of work to do in 6 weeks' time. But the likes of the Roscommons and Monaghans, they just, I think they just love the fact that they're just going to keep challenge for those provincial titles. And that's probably the one minor blip that, yeah, they are going to go. But when you see teams challenge the way they are, like those two, there's still great pride in that structure.
Yeah, on the goalkeeper story, because there was a funny moment. It'd be frustrating if you're a Monaghan fan, you ended up losing. Niall Morgan was caught beyond halfway, and Monaghan turned over the ball, and he just grabbed the Monaghan player around the waist and pulled him back just to stop him. It was as cynical a foul as there has ever been since another Tyrone man made a cynical foul against Monaghan in Croke Park a few years ago. And the referee got away, play on, and it was funny, like Morgan didn't sprint back to the goal. He was kind of a good paced jog, and and Monaghan had the ball. And I'm just waiting for a team to really go
into the
bull-headed to try and get the ball to someone who's within shooting distance of goal to lob the keeper. Like, because Monaghan, they weren't treating it as if there was no goalkeeper, and there wasn't another Tyrone player standing on the line. They were just, the teams aren't like kind of turbocharging up the pitch here to try and catch the keepers out, and I don't know why not.
I think did we not see Damien Comer kick the ball into an empty net in an All-Ireland semi-final last year against
Derry?
Yes, it's true.
Derry. Lynch was up around the halfway line. I trying to get back to goal.
Yeah, so. and I think we've seen Kerry catch Beggan out last year in last year's league campaign up in Castleblaney. I think it was Castleblaney, or maybe it was Scotstoun.
Okay, it has happened.
But it has happened
more.
And Beggan actually got caught more recent now. It was more of a mistake against Armagh. You remember in their league rounds where he was off the line and they went for it. But now he could have saved it still, but it just...
I think, though, like, again, it probably speaks to the intelligence with which the goalkeepers are playing as well, and how smart a lot of them are. I mean, Morgan is probably coming out saying, look, even if I do get caught and if they turn the ball over, it's going to take an absolute worldie for them to stick the ball into the net from that far out the field, and I'll have enough time to get back, or somebody will stand on the line. But I can definitely see someone getting caught in a high-profile game as it continues. I mean, like Oren Lynch, and I know we'll get on to Derry. Oren Lynch kicked a point from play. Goalkeepers are kicking with scores from play now, and it's not even that remarkable. I mean, you know, it's just... but as a game yesterday, I mean, what an absolutely brilliant game. Tyrone did concede a huge number of scores from frees. The one thing I'd say is there's a lot of talk afterwards, they're going to have to tighten up on that area. I don't think they will. I thought they were fairly harshly penalised, actually, to a certain extent, and it did seem slightly one way. I mean, I thought Darragh Canavan was fouled about 5 times at one stage going through, and he just waved play on. So I don't know if they will. I just think this is an issue around the way Tyrone play. I think the next day they could go out and a different referee will have a completely different interpretation. They'll tackle in exactly the same way, and they won't concede 21 frees or 10 scoreable frees or whatever, or whatever it might have been. So I just think that all comes down to interpretation, application. And I don't know if they have a huge amount there, but look, as a game, I mean, you would have wanted eyes, I suppose, at the back of your head to keep a smacked on everything that was going on, and just like, what can you say about Monaghan? I mean, just.
Actually, I have a question for you while you're on about Monaghan. What's more of a shock these days is the likes of Rory Beggan pinging in a lovely curling ball, set up the goal, or Ron O'Toole actually going for goal. I think it's become the norm that we're talking about keeper scoring, where we're actually more shocked that Ron O'Neill went for a goal.
It's true. It is, yeah.
That's the topic. Like we're talking about Oren Lynch, pinging over at 25 yards, open play shot. But yet the topic is that, geez, Ron O'Neill is absolutely stone mad for taking on a shot. Like that. That's the way the game has gone. Like, so yeah, keeper can come out and score 6 points in play, but geez, if that defender goes for goal, man, he's not well in the head. Like,
and you know what? It wasn't even that he was a defender. It could have been the corner. It could have been Conor McManus, and I'd still be kind of surprised that in that situation he went for. And I'm all for him going for it. I'm just surprised he was. He did. Yeah. You want to see him keep that. Lee, on the Monaghan in the second half, was asked how do you turn things around. It was like, oh well, we got on top of midfield a bit better, kickouts, etc. Which is it's all well and good. I always want to follow up question. How did you get on top? Like, did you just decide you were going to be better in midfield? Like, what did they do there? And also, I just said Tyrone, the middle of Tyrone defence was very open in the second half. Like, there was several Monaghan players who carried the ball 30 yards without a hand being laid on him. And one instance, somebody had kicked a point. I think it was what's his name? Conor McCarthy. Just he pretty much ran through the middle, checked back, and kicked it over the bar. Where in the first half he would have been driven back into his own half. It just Tyrone's intensity, or maybe it was a fitness issue. They just seemed to flag in the second half to an extent, particularly without the ball.
Do you know what? It's not a simple answer, and this is something we explored for years in Mayo. Like there was a game we played against Kerry. I think it was the cancelled game on a Saturday night. We came out the Sunday and played them, and I remember we were with a gale force wind, and we were actually, I think we were about 9 points in, 8 points in at half time. And then we came out at half time, we threw off the shackles, and we played our best football. And I think that's what Monaghan did yesterday, is that, I think the pressure was off. There were 5 points in, which wasn't a massive gap, don't get me wrong, but Tyrone are playing really well. And I think Vinny Corey just said to the guys, listen, what is to lose here? We're going to have a second chance. Just throw the shackles off. And I think it's a two-way thing as well. I think Tyrone definitely took the foot of the pedal a little bit. And to Roy's point, there were some soft frees, and I understand that. And I would have been in agreement with the likes of Darragh Canavan. I thought it was the small man syndrome against the big man thing sometimes, that he didn't get the frees where he probably should have, where he was getting in the first half maybe. But I think just Monaghan in particular, and I don't want to say Tyrone took the pressure off, which did a little bit, but I think more credit to Monaghan that they actually went for broke. They dropped the sweeper nearly, and they just said, you know what, if we lose, we'll go out in our shields and do it right. But what ended up happening was they got the first 4 scores second half, and then they started thinking themselves, well, there is a bit of a chance here. Why not just go for it? And Tyrone could never get back to the same level of intensity or standard that they did in the first half. And that's down to Monaghan and the way they played. And listen, it's funny with a game like that, when it starts spiraling out of control a little bit, it's very hard to get back to the normality of where you were initially in the first half. And when things are getting away from you, decisions and the big scores are coming, it's mad how quickly things can unravel. But again, that's, we were very quick to shunt Finney and his panel during the league and the way they played and the lack of, I suppose, Monaghan-esque style play they had. I think it can definitely write that off and give Vinny massive credit. I think that, you mentioned their age profile isn't the most ideal, but what they do is they absolutely maximise everything they have within that squad. And I think that probably game against Mayo, and I know Mayo 10 change or whatever, but I think once Monaghan got the result they wanted from that day, I had a good feeling that Monaghan were going to come good in some sense, because that was a huge morale boosting result for that team. And even the same Division 1, their pride in the status of their Division 1 is just, I've never seen anything like it. They celebrate like it's a championship win. And that's the pride they have in that jersey. And I think the way they came out in the second half summed up the way Monaghan can play. Do I think they're in for a different challenge against Derry, which we're going to talk about. Absolutely. They won't get the same opportunities. They won't get the 40-yard runs and popping over the bar that they did yesterday in the second half. So it's going to present a whole new challenge for Monaghan, but one I'd say they're relishing in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Before we move on to that Derry game, Rory, just a word on Darragh Canavan, because if ever a man didn't deserve to be on the losing side yesterday. He scored 1-5, only 1 point from a free. I think he had 4 or 5 shots in the first half. He didn't miss one of them. And again, as we mentioned on Thursday, he's also a provider. Like he's not, he doesn't just have eyes for goal. Like he's always looking for a teammate as well. He's like, he has been a phenomenal talent for a few years, but I think he now realises what senior inter-county championship is, isn't he, and what is required. And it's kind of a scary thought that, he's probably only going to get better.
Oh yeah, he will, and he will get better. That is the scary prospect. And I mean, it was nearly the complete display within 35 minutes. Like left foot, right foot, low center of gravity, very, very difficult to knock off the ball. Tough as nails as well. I think the only issue for them really was they found it a little bit of a struggle to get ball into him. Certainly in that first period after half time. I mean, they just dozed off in that third quarter, and you know how important that third quarter tends to be, especially in championship. So they just really they lost a foothold in the game. Now they rallied again. I actually think Tyrone played really well. I mean, like 118. If you're putting 118 up on the championship in a tie champ, you're saying, we're going to win that, and for them to lose the momentum, but actually rally some of the scores that McCurry got.
113 from the full forward line, Rory.
Yeah, like it's outstanding. Like, I mean, they played really well. I think there is definitely things that they could take from it. I think what will annoy them, though, I suppose, is they did lose. They took a bit longer coming out after halftime. I don't know if that helped them. And it just, the engine stalled a wee bit. And in fairness, Monaghan grabbed the momentum and ran with it. But I mean, they didn't get their first score in the second half until the 51st minute. So that's definitely going to come back to bite you. You just need to be keeping the old scoreboard ticking over in whatever way you can. Now, as I said, to go back to it, they couldn't buy a free in that first 10 or 15 minutes, where on a couple of occasions I felt maybe they should have been at least given one and maybe two. But look, at the same time, that's the nature of it. And it was listen, it was just it was a classic. It was an absolute classic, and to get one this early in the championship, I think we should all be thankful and fair play. Like what just the Ulster Championship delivers again, amazing.
Rory, that 2-man full forward line I thought yesterday was just like, I know we're talking about Darragh Canavan, how good he was, but I know McCurry wasn't probably on the scoreboard as much, but his vision and creativity around and that combo with them two lads, I think there is huge scope for them going forward. I think that yesterday just showed how dangerous Tyrone can be if they get the right ball and enough the ball inside of them. I think McCurry even his pass to Con yesterday for half a goal chance. Like, not many players go for that, just sublime stuff, like, So I think you're right. I think there's huge scope for them to get better, and the 5-week break will do them no harm at all.
Yeah, Tyrone will be in the quarterfinal. Tyrone will be in the last 8, and then that's when the championship starts for them.
Yeah, if McCurry had been passing to Ryan O'Toole now, it definitely would have been a goal. He wouldn't have passed up that opportunity. He wouldn't have been fisting that over the bar. All right, lads. Saturday night, our the first of the 2 football matches that were on this weekend was, as expected, a Derry win. But Lee, maybe people might have expected this one to be a bit closer. Now, I know there's a couple of goals in the second half for Fermanagh, which Rory Gallagher won't be happy about. He wasn't cheering those ones. But at the same time, the match was well and truly over. Like, I think this is very professional from Derry, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would probably be very disappointed with Fermanagh based on how they performed in the league and had a decent, it wasn't great to watch, but decent league performance against Cavan as well. So there was a bit of optimistic hope for them that they'd put up a big challenge to Derry. And I seen a lot of kind of reviews in the week that the game was going to be quite close. But listen, I think you have to give credit to Rory Gallagher and Derry. After the Dublin game, the response is emphatic, to be honest. I would have thought maybe confidence would have been hit quite a bit, but they came out, and as you said, I think just how professional they were about the business. They had it done 25 minutes, 30 minutes. But one thing that probably does worry me with Derry is, again, we look at their squad depth last year and I suppose their adaptability to teams, and I think Dublin really probably showed their hand a little bit that if you go direct on them and you take them on, there is a bit of chance there. So, they banked 4 goals. They could have had 14 goals. Fermanagh created 2 the last. They scored the 2 with big Shea Cullen, the ex-fullback himself. So listen, Monaghan will look at that, and there is scope there for them to go at them. My other thing is the reliance on Conor Glass. I think the goals came after he went off after 45 minutes, I believe. So his presence and his leadership is huge for what Derry are doing going forward. So one addition I wanted to bring up as well is Kieran McFall. I think he's a huge addition if ready to play football for Derry. I mean, he's in the squad now, just getting up to match fitness. I think when we played against him enough times over the years, I think he is a really, really top player. So he's a big addition. So listen, there's a lot of positives for Derry moved into the Ulster semi-final. Listen, scoring 3 goals and getting the job done after 25-30 minutes, that's going to really satisfy Rory. I'm surprised Rory has any hands left with the mental celebrating that was going on. But anyway, listen, that's part of the fun of it as well.
He's hyped up, Rory. He's I think last year's success followed by semi-final disappointment, I think has only sharpened Rory Gallagher's competitive nature, which is a scary thought because he was already fairly competitive.
Oh, very competitive. And he was his celebrations.
You're not supposed to celebrate against your old club, are you?
His celebrations for each of the goals were quite boisterous. Let's say, but listen, I think they had the game wrapped, as Lee said, they had the game wrapped fairly early. I think though there is a concern there. I mean, 6 goals conceded in their last 2 matches. That's definitely something that will give Monaghan a little bit of cause.
And 2 that the last day were as rudimentary as the fullback put on the edge of the square and lump the ball in and see what happens. Like,
can I ask a question, Mikey? Can I ask you? You might know the answer to this because look, it's a very pedantic thing, and it's probably not even that significant. What's the Derry home jersey? I don't think I've seen Derry wear. My understanding for Derry is their home jersey is white with a red band. Is that not?
Well, yeah, that's certainly, yeah.
Is that the traditional home jersey?
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I've seen Derry wear. Now, is there something in that? Is it because red is a primary color? Is it some class of sports psychology? I don't know. But my understanding in the rules is there's an obligation on you to wear your home colors. Now, I don't know whether or not there's a fine or whatever that goes with it, but I just think it's an interesting one. They never wear it.
No, they didn't wear it at all last year, did they?
No.
I don't remember the last time I've seen Derry wear that jersey. And look, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, there's no reason for them not to wear it, for instance, against Monaghan the next day out. But anyway, look, I don't know. It's not. It doesn't affect their football anyway. I think it was a fairly humdrum, straightforward victory for them, and I think they will go into this semi-final now. Again, pretty good shape, but it's a repeat semi-final, so there won't be any lacking in motivation from a Monaghan perspective, given what happened last year.
Must be the humdrum victory if all you can talk about is their jersey, but it's a fair point. I'm slowly searching through pictures here, Rory, to see where we go back to before they were 2009, 2010. They were definitely wearing the white with the red band.
Look, anywoi,
I'll report back once I'm
I don't
finished.
I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, but I just thought
it's a point.
But around that, I think it's a good confidence booster for them. Although, like the very easy thing was take the Dublin game, and again, the point of clarification is the last 2 games in Croke Park have been quite disappointing in terms of how they lost. So to come back with a response like that is pretty emphatic. So. And plus, some of their big time players did well here. Like Ethan Doherty, I think, is a fantastic player. He had a good game of the weekend. Shane McGuigan again looked sharp, so he did. Cassidy again. I think their half forward line is they're very athletic, but they're good finishers as well when they're given half a chance. So, listen, I think Derry. I still take them as favourites for Ulster. I had back Tyrone on the back of the way they finished their league campaign, but. Again, Derry they haven't said anything that else otherwise that they're not going to be in contention for Ulster, and they're targeting it again. We're talking about provincial, but they seem to be wanting to target that Ulster title again.
Yeah, they were wearing the white jersey with the red band in the 2021 league final, Rory. 2021. So it is a recent thing. So look, for Fermanagh now, obviously, they're going to be Tailteann Cup. They have to be, yeah, they do. Sorry, I know we're having to do weekly permutations to figure out who's going to land where, but I think that's without a shadow of a doubt. Now they're in the Tailteann Cup, so we'll get back to them in time. Rory, can you see, like, we're talking about no safety net, or sorry, there was a safety net. two teams yesterday playing without sweepers, kind of unusual in an Ulster Championship match. I don't see Derry deciding to cut loose like that against Monaghan. You would imagine we'll see a more traditional fare.
Well, Derry don't really. I mean, Derry have a very stringent and strict game plan. I don't really see them diverging too much from it at this stage. You know, there's maybe
So Monaghan aren't going to go into the mincer there without a backup plan of their own, really, are they?
I think it'll be more of the same from Derry. Like, Monaghan will know exactly what to expect, so I don't expect it to be as open as it was yesterday. And just as another point, I think one of the best things about yesterday was the focus and the attention that it rightly got. I think the fact that there wasn't that many games on allowed it the oxygen and the breath to be able to put into what was just an incredible game of football. I think what you're going to potentially look at now, again, coming into next weekend, is, I don't know, is there 13, 14 matches or however many games? So, like, if you had a classic like yesterday play out in that environment, it wouldn't have gotten all of the brilliant attention that it rightly got. And I think that is just another, it's another subplot of this season that we're in. But look, I think it was, I just think it was just, what a game.
Yeah, I don't think Pat Spillane was too happy with the two games yesterday. So
no,
it's two versus 13, and he's a fair point. Like, I mean, we're on about the tight structures or tight, calendar space that we have, and I do agree, Rory. I think it got a lot more pundits than it rightly got because of the two games. But then the flip side is we have that many games this weekend. They were on about a tight schedule, tight calendar. So it's not a one bill fits all type thing. So it's need to be looked at from that perspective.
Yeah. Just to give, we'll finish up now, Sam, but obviously we'll be back Thursday to try and review these. But we've just talked about the only two senior championship matches that were on last weekend. And next weekend on Saturday, we've Sligo, New York, Kerry, Tipperary, Limerick, Clare, Cavan, Armagh in the football, and Antrim, Dublin, Galway, Wexford, Kilkenny, Westmeath in the hurling. That's Saturday. And then there's Joe McDonagh as well. Sunday, Galway, Roscommon, Westmeath, Louth, Kildare, Wicklow, Laois, Dublin, Offaly, Meath, Down, Donegal in football, and Waterford, Limerick, Clare, Tipperary in hurling. That's the Sunday.
See, like Cavan Armagh, take that as an example there. Cavan Armagh has the potential to be another unbelievable Ulster Championship match. But sure, by Sunday morning, it's going to be chip paper, because
Cavan have to win. Cavan have to win for Sam Maguire, hope so.
And it's in Breffni. It'll be a massive crowd. It'll be a brilliant place to be. Actually, it'll be fantastic atmosphere. But anyway, sure, that's what it is.
Well, look, that's our job now for Thursday, Rory. So actually, we're going to finish recording this, and then we're actually going to just start Thursday's podcast straight away, so we actually have it finished.
There's so much to talk about. You probably need to do that.
Yeah. Lee, you got to have lucky, Lee. You got to do the Monday one instead of the Thursday one. Good move.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on anyway, Lee. And myself and Rory will be back with 17 or 18 pundits on Thursday to preview those matches. Chat to you then. Good luck. Goodbye.
By winning the last two matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it! It's over the bar! Oh, holy Moses!